Hello, welcome to tonight's webinar. This is an interactive online experience and we want to hear from you. You can participate by asking questions, answering poll questions, and completing interactive activities. The majority of our time will be spent answering your questions. Let's spend a moment getting to know this Q&A environment. On your screen, you'll see the video and slides window and their corresponding icons. Should you want to minimize either, you can just click the icon, and you can also resize each of the windows. You will also see a studio chat tab and button. That is where you can engage in conversation with fellow attendees. And most importantly, you'll see the Q&A tab. That is where you can ask us questions. All of our Q&As and webinars this year are accessible on computers, tablets, and smartphones, so you can even take us on the go. When you click on the resources icon, you'll find documents and other information that we'll mention during today's discussion. We'll also ask you to respond to some poll questions, which you'll see appear in the slides window. And at the conclusion of tonight's Q&A, please take a few minutes to complete our survey. It will automatically appear on your screen. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to Keeping Your Loved Ones Safe at Home, Part 2. My name is Liz Buser and I'll be your host today. I'm thrilled to be joined from Oklahoma by Michelle Sourjohn, Associate State Director for Communications at AARP Oklahoma, and Kendra Orcutt, an occupational therapist and co-owner of Home Mods by Therapists. Welcome, Michelle and Kendra.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
During this week's two-part Q&A, we're providing you with simple tips and answering your questions about keeping your loved ones safe at home. If you joined us for part one of our discussion, welcome back. And if you were unable to attend the session, you can watch it on demand at any time. The link is available in the resources folder. There you'll also find the slide presentations from both parts of this conversation, so you can download and print the links and tips mentioned during our discussions. Today, we'll continue to answer your questions and discuss how you can find in-home care and manage the healthcare needs of your loved one, technology available to caregivers as their loved ones age in place, and simple and affordable home modifications you can make to bedrooms and bathrooms. You can ask a question at any time about how you can keep your loved ones safe at home. Just type it in the Q&A box on your screen. So let's get started. Part of keeping your loved ones safe at home is managing their health care needs. Michelle, can you tell us more about this important task for caregivers?
Absolutely. When it comes to managing healthcare needs for our family, it's so important that we remain organized. One of the best things that you can do for a family member is stay on top of medications. You want to create a list for all of their medications. And a great way to do that is utilizing our AARP Prepare to Care guide. This is a wonderful free guide that will help you. It's got a workbook in it that will allow you to make a list of medications, doctor's visits, and it also is a full assessment needs of your loved ones. So it's a great book, and it's also got some great resources in there of organizations that you can reach out to in your caregiving journey. Also, consider using some pill boxes. There's some great ones out there that if your loved one takes a lot of medications at different times of the day, there's some that are available for that, as well as there's even some with alarms on them, which is really great. You also want to be able to be ready to handle some medical tasks. Whenever your loved one's being discharged from the hospital or just conversations with their healthcare provider, you want to keep in contact with them and know their medications. And then it's always great for your loved one to be that second eyes and ears so you know how to dispense the medications, also take care of any type of wound care that they may need is so important. You can also go to aarp.org/caregiving where you can get some additional caregiving basics. You can get some information on transportation, additional meal options, and home safety, and as well as some financial and legal information. And then also there's a variety of different home health services that are available to you. At AARP, we have a Medicare Guide for Family Caregivers brochure, which is really incredible. It helps you understand what's available, what services are available to your loved one through Medicare, and like home health services, hospice, or even skilled nursing facilities. You can also go to medicare.gov/home home health compare to find additional home health agencies that are available in your area, as well as find out what their ratings are from consumers like you and me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then you also want to address the social needs of your loved one. There's many great organizations out there that can come visit while you're out, maybe while you're working, and they're like visiting visiting angels.
Mm-hmm.
They provide free companion visits for your loved one. And then also the Prepare to Care booklet that we have will help you set up a great care team and have that conversation. You, of course, also want to stay on top of your nutrition for both you and your loved one. At AARP, we have some really great videos at aarp.org/caregiving, as well as aarp.org/native origins, where you can find some quick, easy, these are videos of quick, easy recipes that you can make at home for both you and your loved one. And, of course, when you're caregiving, it's hard to get in exercise, but it's so important. It gives you a lot of energy. And then for your loved one, it, increases their mobility, their balance, and their strength. And then lastly, just establish those boundaries with them and find out, do they want help with their medication? Do they need help with transportation? Find out what their needs are, as well as what you're prepared to do as a caregiver yourself.
Thank you, Michelle. Now, additional tips on providing care for your loved one at home is available on AARP's Family Caregiving website, which you mentioned, aarp.org/caregiving. Technology is an increasingly important part of managing your loved one's healthcare needs because it reduces stress and it provides caregivers with greater peace of mind. New caregiving apps and devices are constantly being developed, and they're changing the caregiving experience. A recent survey revealed that 71% of family caregivers say they're interested in using technology to help care for their loved one. However, only 7% indicated they're actually using the technology. Technology can help you manage medications, maintain home safety, organize caregiving tasks such as doctor's appointments, arrange transportation, manage finances, and more. You'll also see examples of technology for caregivers on your screen. Michelle, what are your thoughts on technology for caregivers?
Oh my gosh, there's so many great applications and resources out there that are available. But there's some great ones such as kind of GPS tracking. So Find My Friends, which is helps if you have somebody that you want to keep track to find out if they went to their doctor's appointment or just where they're at. Those are really great. They're also really great for your teenagers, too.
Yes.
And then also there's caregiving apps to help coordinate care. So your friends, your family can sign on. If you can't take your loved one to an appointment on Tuesday, somebody can chime in and say, I can handle that. And so they're really great and easy to use. There's also medical alert devices that are available out there. Some people are even using Alexa to kind of help with those as well. And then also, we talked about it a little bit on Tuesday, but there's also home monitoring sensors or even doorbells with cameras on it. So if somebody rings the doorbell of your loved one, it chimes into your phone as a caregiver. You can answer the door, and it makes it look like you're on the other side of the door.
That's awesome.
Wonderful. Thanks, Michelle. We have a quick poll question for our audience. We want to know, are you currently leveraging technology, like Michelle mentioned, as you care for a loved one? Answer yes or no. Just select the answer that applies to you on your screen. We'll give you a moment to do that. And while you're doing that, Michelle and Kendra, how would you answer the poll question?
Well, I know that I currently have a young man who's home who is using the technology. He's recently gotten a new device that allows him to play a computer game, and he talks to Alexa all the time, tells her to turn the lights on and off. It allows him the independence a teenager needs to feel like themselves. So it's been huge.
And I used technology for my mom. She had a lot of medication and took them at various times of the day. And so what we would do is use a clock alarm on her computer that had a really soft ring to it to either wake her up or alert her that it's time for her to take her medication. And that really helped keep her medication schedule on track.
Wonderful. So let's take a look at the poll results. It looks like 62% of you aren't using technology and 38% are. So we hope you found these tips to be helpful and you'll consider incorporating that into your caregiving. We've included links in the resources folder where you can learn more about available technology. So let's switch gears and talk about simple and affordable home modifications that you can make to bedrooms and bathrooms. If you missed part 1 of our discussion, make sure you check it out on demand, as we focused on other areas of the home, such as the kitchen and entryways. Michelle and Kendra?
Great. Well, let's start off with bedrooms. Bedrooms should be clutter-free. The bed should be at a height where you can get in and out of them very easily. And then also consider removing any type of rugs that could be some type of a tripping hazard.
Well, and one of the things we've seen a lot of patients use in home health is something called a bed cane. You slip the board in between the mattress and the box spring, and it holds a grab bar in place on the side of the bed, which helps a lot if you have limited mobility.
Great. Also with bedrooms, during part 1, Dave and I discussed the importance of having single-floor living. Single-floor living is making sure that within one floor you have access, of course, to your bedroom, a kitchen, living area, full bedroom, and then also an accessible shower. Mm-hmm. And then Kendra's going to talk to us a little bit more about bedrooms and walk us through some great accessibility as well as how to make your bathroom really beautiful.
Absolutely. And bathrooms are critical. That makes the difference between you being able to stay at home or not. So the components of an accessible bathroom include your standard tub or shower combination, a walk-in shower, grab bars, you have either a tub bench or a shower seat, you can have a comfort height toilet, and you want to have maneuvering space for a wheelchair, and the sink style matters a great deal. So first we're going to talk about what the handheld shower head. This is something I think should be standard when you go home. They're invaluable. It allows you to wash any part of your body in any location. It allows you to, spray down the shower, and it's great if you have pets.
Yeah, if you have dogs, it makes it so much easier.
I don't know how we got by without them before. So next we're going to talk about grab bars, and this is really a hot topic because first off, they've come a long way. They no longer look like your, typical sterile hospital grab bars. They come in a variety of styles. They're beautiful. They actually can add to your bathroom if you coordinate it with the fixtures that you're using. But I highly recommend that you have an occupational therapist assess where these grab bars need to be placed, because the two things that cause falls are they're not placed properly and they're not installed properly. So please be sure that you make sure that the grab bar is where you need it or your family member does, but also make sure that you have somebody professionally install them. It's really important to have at least one end in a wall stud, but you want the other end can be either in another wall stud or it can have a wall bracket that is rated for holding it in place. And that way you can put them where your family member needs them.
And grab bars kind of look almost like towel racks these days. They're just
Absolutely.
So pretty.
Yeah, my parents use theirs as one sometimes, so they're great. And then the next thing we want to talk about is the bathroom. So as I said, everybody has got to be able to get into the bathroom, and one of the things we often install is a raised toilet seat. Okay, and that you can get them now. They're about $200, and they're anywhere from 17 to 19 inches high. And the reason they work is because they're the same height as a chair, so it makes it much easier to get on and off of it. And the other thing you can do is get a raised toilet seat, just the individual seat that sits on top of your toilet. But you want to make sure that the opening on that is large enough for you to have proper hygiene. The thing that I'm really emphasizing in the homes that I'm modifying is something called a toilet. It's a bidet washlet seat. And what you do is you take off your existing toilet seat and you can reattach this. They come water-powered or electric, and it makes sure that the working area of your body gets washed every time you use the toilet. And that's made a huge difference for some of my patients. And the last thing I want to say is if you are going to put a grab bar in around the toilet, I really like the ones that are the flip-away grab bar so that you can get it up out of your way so you have an option of how you transfer over to the toilet depending on who needs to use it, rather than putting something permanently in your way. Liz?
Wonderful. Thank you, Kendra. And I do want to reiterate before we move on that the slides we're talking about tonight and the ones from our part one of this conversation are available for download in the resources folder. So you can get the URLs that way. So to learn more about how you can keep your loved ones safe at home, you can also visit aarp.org/continue learning and aarp.org/learn@50+. Again, a reminder to our audience, you can ask a question, just type it in the Q&A box on your screen. So let's get to those questions. Our first one's from Pamela. She says, what is the best way to make arrangements for respite care?
Well, I think there's two things. One, you need to find out what resources are available around in your area, and the other is how do you cover the cost of it. Most home health care companies, hospice companies, and nursing home facilities will offer some form of respite, and it all depends on varying factors. And then I know long-term care insurance often will pay for some respite care. So those are some things.
And then you also might check out with DHS or your area-wide aging services. They can also point you in how to apply for respite. A lot of times there's some respite vouchers out there that you as the caregiver are given the vouchers, and then you can contract with a family member as long as they're not living in the home, and then it's up to you and the caregiver how much you pay them out of that voucher. So it's a really great service, and you can also even get some of those through tribal nations as well.
Wonderful. And, this information and more is available on AARP's Family Caregiving website, which is aarp.org/caregiving. So our next question is from Miguelita. My father's 92 years old and he is legally blind. I need to change my shower stall to allow us to roll him in for his shower since he can't take a shower by himself. Are there any resources that can help me with costs?
Yes, there are. There's many out there. A lot of them are hinged to your income level, but some of the ones that I've utilized are the city grants are available. They're federally funded. They're called CDGB, and those are forgivable loans, and that allows you to do quite a bit to your home. And if you don't fit in that category, a lot of cities have smaller loans for accessibility. There's also community action, or we talked about this earlier.
You can also contact Rebuilding Together,
There you go.
Which is a great organization that can help you do home modifications and install ramps. But those home loans, those are really great. You also might want to check with the VA, and then again, those home loans are really great. Again, they're forgivable. I think the city of Shawnee has up to $30,000.
Yeah.
Norman has up to
$25,000.
$25,000. I mean, that's incredible. And so, but you just have to ask, and you may have to do a little bit of digging.
Mm-hmm.
Great question. So our next one is from Gail. We had talked about how there's some good-looking bathroom grab bars now. Do you know where you can find other helpful tools like that? Do you shop online? Do you go to your hardware store? Where can you find all of that?
Well, I can tell you the best search engine out there is Amazon. I've gone to a lot of websites that have to do with adaptable equipment, and unless you know what you're looking for, it's hard to find. But if you just type in those words, often it'll pull up an item you think, oh, that's what I want, and then that will lead you to other products that are listed. And this is the way I find a lot of things for my clients, is start with one search and then kind of, I think it's called telescope down to the next thing, and you'll find the item that you want.
And most of your local hardware stores have these grab bars. I mean, more and more companies are making them more beautiful, so it looks like a part of the design of your home. Mm-hmm.
Great. So it sounds like you can find information online and in person. So let's get to another question. This one's from Mira. What's a good source of accessible design parameters? Well, this is a good question. I would like to rebuild a ramp and hope to make it a little less institutional looking, but I don't want to interfere with usability.
Well, if you want some basic guidelines, ADA has standard guidelines for widths and heights and things like that. But the thing that's important to keep in mind is that residential does not have building codes that require you to do it a certain way. So you want to make the ramp fit your home. You want to make it aesthetically pleasing and not as obvious from the road. This is really important for the safety of your family. utilizing landscaping can do a huge amount to camouflage the access to the house. And depending on the height, you could just basically change the slope of a sidewalk and get to your front porch, or you might have to go to a ramp.
And you've done some really good ones, like poured concrete that really just looked like, and then put some landscaping around it, so which it was really beautiful. There's also railing that you can put in to make it look like a bridge. So there's just ways to really make it aesthetic looking. It is important that you make it look like it's a part of the home, because if you don't, someone sees a ramp on the front of your home, it really alerts con artists that there's someone vulnerable inside.
That's a great point that you bring up. So let's switch gears for a little bit. We'll get to some more questions in a second. But in part 1 of our Q&A series, we invited you to share photos of areas of your home that you're thinking of making improvements to. So we're going to show a couple of those photos on the screen so Kendra and Michelle can suggest simple modifications that can be made to make the area more age-friendly and accessible. So this first photo is from Nancy. She sent us a photo of an entryway in her neighborhood. And as you can see, there's a number of steps that are leading up to the multi-level home. What are your thoughts on that, Kendra?
Well, two things. You have to determine what's most important to the person living there. If they really want to remain in their community, then we're going to have to do some significant work. It is way too high to accommodate a ramp. So the most straightforward solution would be a lift, and those are somewhere around $5,000 or $6,000. But two of the things that I'm concerned about is the landing and the stoop outside the front door. Those are both too small, and there's a lot of tripping hazards around the landing. The surface looks rough. So there's some of those things that need to be addressed, but getting you from one level to the next is going to probably involve a lift.
And Kendra mentioned that this for these stairs, it's very steep. You got to remember, for every inch that you have in height rise, and you're going to need a foot slope to be able to make it a very safe ramp. So as you can see, that is incredibly steep. So you'd need a very long ramp to be able to make that accessible.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. So we're going to quickly go through the next two photos so we can get to some more of your questions. So the next one's from Cheryl. She sent us a photo of her bathtub. What do you think about this one?
Well, I've seen a lot of garden tubs like this that have that step outside, and that's my biggest obstacle, is trying to get you safely from outside the tub to inside the tub. So an obvious one would be having a grab bar, but if it's possible, remove that step, and you could utilize a transfer tub bench to get in there, or, of course, my preference would be pull the whole thing out and do a zero threshold shower. That would be the best option.
Thank you, Kendra. So this last one's from Philip. He sent us a photo of his kitchen. It looks like there's some modifications needed here. What are your thoughts on this photo?
Well, on this one, it depends on what his priority is in the kitchen. If he never cares if he cooks again, then we don't need to make it accessible under the stove, but he might need access under the sink. And this is if he's in a seated position. The microwave is up in the cabinet, and that's too high to be safe to get down if you have any upper extremity deficits. And then it would be nice to add an option of a lower cabinet, maybe make an L shape and come out into the kitchen this way, depending on how it's configured, so that you have multiple surfaces to work on. But again, you have to talk to the client and find out what their priorities are to spend those remodeling dollars well.
Well, don't forget to learn more about how you can keep your loved ones safe at home. You can visit aarp.org/continuelearning and aarp.org/learnat50+. Thank you to Nancy, Cheryl, and Philip for allowing us to share your photos. We do have a few more minutes, so let's answer some more questions. So our next one is from Yvonne. Where do you find ones to come make assessments at your loved one's home for modification?
Where do you find someone to come do the assessment?
Exactly. Great question.
Okay.
You can check out the National Home Builders Association site. They have a full list of certified aging in place specialists, and Kendra and I are both on that list.
Yes, we are.
And so you can just check by state and even by city to see some certified aging in place specialists in your area. You also want to contact somebody like Kendra, who's an occupational therapist.
Yeah.
It's a great question, Yvonne. So let's get to our next question. It is from Cynthia, what size should the shower be if I'm modifying a corner shower to be more accessible? Does it need to be a curbless shower, or will a low threshold work?
It's best always to have it be a zero threshold shower so that if you are ever needing to access your shower in a seated position, you don't have that curb to overcome. It depends on whether you're on a crawl space or a slab. And low threshold still causes an obstacle and actually can be a tripping hazard. If you're not aware of it, you could trip over it going in.
Great, thank you. This next question, Michelle, I'm going to throw your way. Marty brings up a great point. This is great information, but what about the low and no cost modifications that you can make? Where can you find more information on that?
AARP, we actually thought about that, and they created the no-cost, low-cost ideas. It's a great brochure that you can either go online at aarp.org/caregiving, or you can just check with your local AARP state office, and they can get you one as well. But it's got all sorts of information in here of things that you can do yourself that are low cost and no cost. And then also there's some great ideas in helping you declutter as well.
And that's what I was going to say, is decluttering doesn't cost anything, and it's probably the biggest thing you can do to make a home safe. We've all seen our family member with a pile around the chair, which is just a tripping hazard when you go to get up from it. So it's free to declutter.
Kendra, I'm glad you brought up that point, because we've actually gotten a couple questions from people whose parents are hoarders and won't let them touch their stuff. So do you have any advice for them to help them declutter if that's the case?
Yes, it is a really hard thing to overcome. I've had a couple of clients that have asked me to intervene, and it's particularly hard if it's your parent. It might be better to have somebody who's professionally trained come in and work with them. I know sometimes as an occupational therapist, you can do it as a process of life review, saying, do I want to keep this? I often start with 3 buckets. This one we're going to give away, this one we're keeping to give to the kids, and this one is probably trash. And giving choices helps a lot, but it is really a tough thing to overcome. And one of the things I try to do is stop the mail as it comes in the door, because I swear mail populates throughout the house. It just, makes more of it. So if you can reduce stuff coming in the first place, that helps a lot as well.
Wonderful tips. Thank you. So we have time for another question, then we're going to talk about some resources that you can access. So this one is from Peter. How can I find in-home caregivers? Michelle?
So finding in-home caregivers, you can actually just go online. There's different organizations that you can contact. You can also go to, again, like Medicare.gov and check out some of those healthcare providers as well. And importantly, get a rating on them, on what people like you and me would rate them as well. So it's so important to kind of do your research. Also, Yelp and Google, they're also great resources to kind of also get reviews on home health care as well.
And it just depends.
Go ahead, Kendra.
I was just going to say, if there's a medical need, this is covered through Medicare. So as long as there's medical necessity, it is something that's paid for by your Medicare. If it is not medical, it then goes into the realm of private pay, and that's when you look for these resources of companies that do that.
And I was going to say AARP's Prepare to Care Guide is also a great resource for you to consider. It outlines different websites and partners you can look for. So it actually looks like we're out of time this evening. So we're going to take a look at some additional free resources, which you will see on your screen. They include AARP's Home Fit and Prepare to Care Guides, which we mentioned, and the AARP Family Caregiving website. Michelle and Kendra, do you have any final advice to share with our audience?
I would just like to say, make sure you go to AARP and download the Prepare to Care booklets and the Medicare Guide for Family Caregivers. These are so important, and they're such great resources. I actually gave these to my mom because there can be some invasive questions in here, and just said, fill these out. If you have any questions in the morning, let me know. And it really empowers your loved one to take more active role in their own health as well. So these are great resources, as well as the Home Fit Guide. This will take you room by room, let you know what you need to do to make your home more livable.
And the point I want to emphasize is that this is the time to do it now while you have time to plan for your budget, you have time to plan and think about what materials you might want to use, what are your priorities. It's so much easier to do it now than when, your mom has broken her hip and you have to bring her home and you have to make all these decisions quickly. So please, plan ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you both. And as a reminder, you can access all of the links, including to the on-demand version of this week's sessions, as well as content mentioned tonight. Just click on the resources icon. There you'll also find interactive videos and other helpful tips and tools to help you keep your loved ones safe at home. And don't forget to visit the resources on your screen for additional information. Please take a few minutes to complete our survey. It will automatically appear on your screen in just a moment. I want to thank Michelle and Kendra so much for being here and thank everyone for attending. Have a great evening.